Shauna here. So I am going to take you on a little tour of our tiny little homestead that we're trying to start here in our backyard. We're sitting on about a half acre. The backyard portion though is not a half acre, it's probably more like a third of an acre. But anyway, you can see everything's still pretty dry, like our lilac bush and our fruit trees here, peaches, nectarines, plums, etc., pears. Everything's still pretty dry right now from winter, which technically we still sort of in winter here in Colorado because our last frost is in early May. So even though it's a gorgeous day right now, 70 degrees, birds chirping and slight breeze going, it's not spring yet, unfortunately. I call this, because it's nice out, but we're still technically in winter, I call this fake spring. Because at any point before our last frost in early May, between now and then, it could snow. It could be a gorgeous day like this and perfectly warm and sunny out, and then the next few days we'll have snowfall. That's just how it is here in Colorado. Still miss the beach very, very terribly much, but I have gotten used to this fluctuating, unpredictable, cold winter here in Colorado. Anyway, let's go check out the little homestead. This area here, I plan on creating a little butterfly garden area. I already have bulbs and gladioluses coming in next month. So those are going to be planted right around here in this corner, right in front of the chicken coop. That's where the peonies and gladioluses are going to be. Keep in mind, I am a complete beginner, but I've been researching a ton and I feel pretty confident in actually starting this homesteading journey. My plan is to try to master a different homesteading skill, get really, really good at it before I move on to trying to master another skill. So right now I'm tackling gardening, namely vegetable gardening. I'm going to do a couple flowers, but I'm not going to go too crazy with it because my goal is to really get good at vegetable gardening, because at some point, hopefully next spring or next summer, I want to be able to grow at least 80% of our produce. We'll see. Anyway, I'm going to tackle gardening first, and after gardening, we're going to get into maybe some cheese making, but I will definitely keep you updated. So let's go into our raised garden bed here, and take a quick peek at the chicken coop here. Are we planning on keeping chickens or ducks or quail or any sort of fowl like that? I don't know. We're sort of on the fence. Some days my husband and I are thinking, yes, we can probably pull it off. And other days we're thinking, no, it's going to be way too much work, way too much hassle to try to keep everything clean, and we don't want to get in over our heads. But keep our eggs, there's still some feathers in there too. Here is their little run area where it's all fenced in and protected. Here were some different plants that the previous owners of this house planted that the chickens would snack on. And I don't know, we might just end up growing vegetables there, or I don't know. But here is the raised bed. There's an entrance right here. And as you can see, that's pretty substantial space. If I were to guess, this would probably be, just the length of it would probably be about 12 feet maybe, 12 to 15 feet. Just for that area right there. And this is probably 3 feet here. This is probably like 5 feet here. And this raised bed is about the same. That's probably about 12 to 15 feet here, maybe 5 to 6 feet here. And then we have like a little water drip system here, where you could also attach a hose here to soak the vegetables. But yeah, and then here, last summer I tried to grow some romaine lettuce. Was very successful actually, but because, you know, I was freshly postpartum, I couldn't really take care of the lettuce that was doing so well in here, so it got neglected, and I'll have to start over in here. But I'd like to plant more romaine lettuce in there. Some mushroom compost here left behind by the previous owners. And yeah, so we're gonna start small right now indoors in our little multi-purpose room under grow lights. We have some celery, some peppers, tomatoes, what else? Carrots, kale, and just a small handful of vegetables that were starting out as seedlings, and after the last frost date, we're gonna be planting them probably just in this area here, just for starters. Before we even do that, at some point, maybe this weekend, we're gonna have to dig all this up and amend the soil and just basically do it all over, start from scratch. And I will be filming that process when we do. And if you come over here, we have our tumbler. That is another project that is coming up before the last frost, before we transplant our little seedlings out to the raised bed here, is clean out this tumbler and start some compost in there after we clean it out. Here's some extra pots and stuff that I may or may not use, I don't know yet. Here's a little greenhouse in here. I don't know quite yet what I want to do with it, but yeah, once I figure it out, I will definitely update you and maybe even do a little video of it. This corner here, we have big plans for this corner. We're going to do a combination of ornamental flowers and grasses, and also vegetables. Vegetables that are too big and need to spread out way bigger than the space we have here. So things like pumpkins, corn, squash, peas, cabbages, asparagus, things like that. That's all gonna go in that space. And there were some raspberry, blackberry bushes here and back in here. And then here's our tart cherry tree that we like to sit under and just hang out and read books in the summer. Can't wait for that. At some point, I don't know how soon, but we want to build a little fire pit right here. So that'll be a big project for us, because we're going to do it all ourselves. Dig it out, you know, lay down cement in it, and, you know, make it all pretty and do the whole thing. And then here are our fruit trees. We really don't want to play around with the fruit trees as far as doing anything ourselves, because we really want to keep them healthy and keep them going. So we're going to hire an arborist to come out to prune everything, fertilize everything, and get it all ready for the growing season. And then hopefully the arborist will teach us how to maintain it throughout the year. A big problem for us last year, especially with this nectarine tree, was Japanese beetles. The bane, one of the banes of all gardeners besides binder weeds. So we had an infestation of Japanese beetles on our nectarine tree especially. And so we are going to plant some white geranium and other things around this tree to hopefully naturally repel those beetles. And we're also going to treat the soil there to make sure that we can unalive a bunch of the Japanese beetle eggs that may be laying dormant there in the soil. Just kind of organically treat and prevent pests, because we definitely don't want to spray any sort of chemicals on anything that we would eat. Plus with little Gracie, she's, you know, by summer she's going to be walking, maybe running around. We don't want her touching anything that might have chemicals on them. And yeah, so that's what we're planning to do here. Well, I'll save that for another video, but I do plan on doing a bunch of stuff over here because this looks like a space that has lots of potential for different things. And it'll be sort of a spillover of the butterfly garden right here. So the butterfly garden really is just going to be this little area here and a little bit over the fence and that little patch there where I'm going to plant the peonies. So that's the butterfly garden. And there's going to be an arch here, bamboo arch here, and with some honeysuckle trailing up. It's going to be really pretty when it's all done. But yeah, not really a big space, but just to expand the area that we're going to be attracting pollinators. I am going to plant some things here that are very butterfly and pollinator friendly. Speaking of pollinators, right behind our lilac bush here is our little bee house. And this bee house, the bees are actually in there and they're sleeping. They're hibernating right now, and they'll probably come out sometime around the last frost date. And when they came out last year, it was really exciting. They're so cute. These are not honeybees, so they don't sting. Like, they're not aggressive at all. They're actually really docile. You can go right up near them and touch them, and they don't bother you. But this little bee house here is strictly for pollinating bees. And so what they do is they flutter around or buzz around and pollinate these fruit trees here for us. So yeah, I want to keep these little guys happy, so definitely going to be planting more things that they might like to hover around. And then here I plan on getting some limelight hydrangeas. Hydrangeas aren't really friendly to Colorado except for certain varieties like the limelight varieties and others. So I really like hydrangeas and I want them on our property, so they're going to be planted right along here, as well as some ground cover plants. I don't know which ones yet. I have a few in mind, but I haven't settled on any yet. So that's going to go there. And here in this patch, we have our sage, the very robust, that always, just never seems to want to go kaput, no matter what the weather's like or what we do to it. Now, there's a sage, there's a Sharon hibiscus, Sharon shrub or whatever here, very cold hardy, that comes back every year. Right there, although it did not grow big enough to put off any blooms last year, we really didn't know what we were doing with it. We just cut it back and let it do its thing, and it did grow some, but it just didn't get big enough to push out any flowers. So maybe this year we'll be able to do something with that. But we have some really pretty poppies over here. This, I'm planning on planting a bunch of cold hardy herbs that do well here in Colorado. So like dill and maybe oregano and stuff like that. So that's going to be part like my little herb patch. And then my actual herb garden will be mostly indoors for things like rosemary and cilantro, things that don't do well in Colorado in ground. And here's a little hummingbird feeder. Can't wait till our hummingbirds come back. They usually show up around, I don't know, June is when they usually show up, and then they go bye-bye around November, and then we don't see them until next spring-ish. Next spring, early summer. But yep, that's that. Let me take a seat here. That is the tour of our little homestead area. So, as you can see, We have a lot to work with, a lot of space, a lot of cool things that have been left behind by the previous owners of this house before we bought it. And it's just got a lot of potential, but we're gonna rein that excitement in and take things really slow, because we don't want to invest all this money to start all these projects here on our property, and then because we're such beginners, we end up just ruining everything before it really gets off the ground. So we're gonna start small, just with a few vegetables, a couple flowers. We might redo the grass. My husband and I are talking about either synthetic grass or some sort of really drought hardy grass, because in the summers here it gets so hot and so dry. Grass just doesn't last very long here, as we found out last summer. So yeah, just starting out really small, and we've got our baby here, so we've got our hands full already. I think a few vegetables in our raised beds, a couple flowers, maybe get the butterfly garden started, maybe. That's about all we'll do this year. But, you know, if you are going to stick around for this journey to see what this will eventually turn into in its fullest capabilities and potential, then I hope you'll stick around, and I thank you in advance for coming alongside me on this journey as we start homesteading on our little property.